In this video, I would like to help you understand the several streams of income in the music industry as an artist. A lot of newcomers, but also very well established DJs and producers that I know do not necessarily understand the difference in terms of income split, the several streams of income that we have to actually collect. There are three main ones that I would like to mention here as a content creator that you need to collect. And I would just want to make sure that you collect them all. If you are in the process of signing your first records, or maybe you have trouble dealing with a label, or maybe you are uploading your music yourself as an independent label or producer, let's say, you need to know what you are signing. And you need to know when the money is coming and where from. This with a little bit of context in the history of music business. So sit back, relax, and here we go. Greetings everyone, I hope you are doing well. I'm so happy to cover this very interesting topic with all of you. And if you have comments and questions, please leave them in the comment section below. And of course, do not forget to subscribe and hit the bell button next to it. Now, without any further ado, it's time to talk about the music business and its three main sources of income. Let's start with a little reminder of context and history. Back in the 50s and 60s mainly. Back then, making a record would cost a lot of money and would demand a lot of manpower. Because first of all, you had to record the music in a recording studio, financed by a producer, and also a lot of gear such as tape recorders, mixers, engineers, etc., 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 etc. And this is why actually there was a split in terms of income. So the creators of the music were getting their share through their local authorized society. There were composers, authors, arrangers, and the likes. On the other hand, the producers, so the guys who financed the studio and everything, were getting their money from a record label deal. The record label was in charge of the distribution of the records, sometimes the pressing of the records. And the way it works is, well, it's still very simple. For each physical copy that gets pressed, an artist gets a certain amount of money as a composer. But back in the 50s and 60s, you wouldn't get any money in terms of artist royalties from the record label itself. That money was collected at the source from, let's say, the pressing plant, actually. This is how it used to work. But of course, time went by. In the 60s, you had the first complaints because the record labels and the distributors were making a lot of money, an awful lot of money, leaving next to, no money to the creators sometimes, or even the respective producers or managers. It became a head scratcher, and some of them, and remind me if I'm wrong, but I think it was the likes of Elvis Presley who brought this up and said, hey, we do not agree with this anymore. We would like a fair share of income when it comes to artist royalties. And this is how record labels and other, let's say right holders, sat on the table and discussed a fair share of income for all the artists. Progressively, of course, time went on. Producers became labels sometimes because independent music was actually blooming all over the 70s and, of course, the 80s, which gave birth to electronic music, actually. And this is how it transformed the entire scene. Because back in the 80s, with the explosion of house and techno music, what happened is, well, the producers and the creators of the music became one person or running as a band. So the creators of the music, the composers, the authors were actually recording the music, became the producers, became the studio, and all that income was gone. I mean, the income from the recording studios and everything else. From there, of course, they were making a lot more money because they were getting the streams of income as a composer and as a producer towards the record label. And this is how we created this giant, actually, thing that's a bit harder to understand for most of you. And back in the 90s, this is where I started making music. There was something else coming on the table, and that's called neighboring rights. Because mostly performers, sometimes remixers, were saying, hey, but all this music played on the radio and all this music played in public places and everything, we're not getting a fair share here because we're not the composers, we're not the producers, what are we? And they needed to find a fair way to actually remunerate these people. And this is how neighboring rights were born. Now you have three basic sources of income in 2020. The first one is the artist royalties you get from the record labels. And most of the time you get them every 6 months. If you are running a label yourself, you get them every quarter or every month, depending on the distribution system you are joining. It's very different between all the platforms, and I cannot relate that. Maybe in a future video, if you want to, just leave me a comment in the section below. So we have the artist royalties and we have the publishing rights. And this is where it becomes a bit complicated for nowadays people, because they do not understand that as a creator, as a composer, you have to be registered at your local authorized society to collect every single play on the radio, every single physical record pressed. And I know that the likes of iTunes also pay author rights and publishing rights. For that purpose, you have many options. You can get registered as an artist, as a composer, author at your local authorized society. And to get your paperwork done, I strongly recommend you to actually get in touch with a real professional publisher. There are a lot of them, and they are very professional. They do a lot of the paperwork for you, and they take a small percentage of your income, of course. And this way, you are sure that every single piece of paperwork gets done and that your money, all your monies get collected. And this is very important. This point only is very important because where you release music through TuneCore, DistroKid, and the like, CD Baby or whatever, you tend to forget about publishing. And it's a very, very important point in terms of artist income in 2020. Because each and every single time your record gets played on the radio, on the FM band, you should get a substantial amount of money. And most people pass on that. And the worst of it all is that if you do not register your tracks through your local authorized society with the help from a publisher, what happens is that after 3 years, your money gets lost. That's a big problem. And the same can be said about neighboring rights. So in each case, they pay every 3 to 6 months approximately, depends on the country. But it's very important that you register your works in due time on these authorized society and neighboring rights society. Automatically upon signature or registration, so you sign the record or you upload your record through your distributor and you do the paperwork. Through a publisher or not, it's up to you, but I strongly recommend a publisher for that reason. So you make sure that you don't miss a huge chunk of your income. Voila, I hope that it was clear enough for you. I know it's a very, very complicated subject, and I know that you will probably have a few questions about this. So please let me know and comment below if you have any questions. Thanks for watching, and make sure you hit subscribe once again for more content like this. See you next time in a future video. Bye.